Good afternoon and welcome to the second installment of our new series, An Afternoon With, and we've got a very special guest who you can see beside me here. We've had some amazing questions come in, which I'm going to get to Carly throughout this next 45 minutes. But I just want to say a big thank you to those who submitted questions. So we had Jaden, Davey, Matthew, Emily, Nicole, Ben, Hallie, Dylan, Lathan, Joseph, Tammy, Charlie, Lucy, Miss Sefton, Tyler, Michael, Tanya, Craig, Darcy, Ashton, Karis, Calum, and Mr. Seaton all submitted questions. So looking forward to getting to them. If I don't ask your question directly, it might be because Carly's already answered it in a way, or there's some duplication with questions. All right, but hopefully any of the answers you want, we'll get to. Like I said, this is the second installment. You can go back and watch the first one with David Fisher, the editor of His Dark Materials and Doctor Who, and you can get that at careers.tanfieldschool.co.uk. So it's amazing today. And a real privilege to be joined by Carly Telford. Carly's a professional footballer who plays as goalkeeper for the Lionesses England team and Chelsea Football Club, and a former student of Tanfield School. Hi, Carly. How are you doing?
Hi, you're right. Mr. Fitzpatrick, I have to call you by that. I feel like whenever I have to address them as a teacher, it's only right.
So let's jump right in at the deep end. And we've got our first question, which is a video from Lucy. So I'm just going to play it here for you.
Hi, Carly. What is your proudest achievement in football?
So Lucy's asking, what's your proudest achievement in football?
Okay, thanks for that, Lucy. Okay, so I guess my proudest achievement in football is playing in a World Cup. I think that when you start as a little girl, and I guess all you're doing is playing with some of your mates that I went to school with, I guess you all kind of run around thinking you're a player. So I used to think I was David Beckham, that I was all these amazing players that I would see on the TV, and one day that I wanted to be like them. But I guess never did I think that I would stand on one of the biggest stages in the world, playing against Argentina in front of, I think it was 35,000 people, with millions of people watching back home, in one of the greatest shows in the world, in a World Cup. So I think that's my greatest achievement ever, because I finally got to make it onto the big stage, or the biggest stage in the world. And yeah, I think that as I grew up and realised what I could achieve, that was kind of the thing I wanted to do, and there I was 2 years ago doing it. So yeah.
Amazing. We were watching it as well. So back in 2019, we were in our morning meeting times. We were watching like the highlights of the games from the night before. So the school were right behind you and cheering you on for that. Yeah, it was. I'm going to ask a question from Miss Johnson, who and it kind of relates to you kind of performing on that big stage, like you said. What does it feel like when you save a goal that's particularly like a game-changing save? Like, what is that? What feelings do you get?
It's kind of just like an adrenaline rush, because I think for me, like being in goal for England and Chelsea are quite similar. Like, I'm not very busy as a goalkeeper, like, so a lot of the time it's just about concentration and knowing about I'm prepared for that moment, because being a goalkeeper, it's small snippets of the game. You're not involved all the time. So I think knowing that I'm prepared when I cross that white line, I sing the national anthem, and then I'm just ready for anything, because that is the cool thing about football, and the mad thing about football is that anything can happen in those 90 minutes. You could be stood for 90 minutes doing absolutely nothing. You could be stood making save after save, or you could be called upon for that one moment. So you might have stood doing nothing for 89 minutes, and then that ball comes into your area and you've got to make a save. And am I prepared for that moment? Am I nervous? No, because I've done it a million times. I've prepared, I've trained hard, I've watched clips, I know what the players are going to do. And then in that moment, I'm prepared and I make that save. And then it's just kind of that, I knew I was ready for it. And then, but at the same time, you're absolutely buzzing, because usually there's a big cheer from behind you or around you. Your teammates are usually giving you a little bit of G up or a well done. And yeah, it's just about being prepared and making sure that in that moment I enjoy it as well, because after the game, I think you're just kind of like relieved, because there's so much sometimes pressure on those moments as well, that for you to make a save when you've been not doing a lot. But yeah, I think it's just like an absolute buzz. It's probably the same you just feel like a little kid again. Like it just takes you back to like being in the park with your mates and winning like co-op or 1v1s or World Cups, whatever we used to play. Like it's just a feeling that I think I've always had is when I play the game, and it's the game that I love. So yeah, it's just like I mean I'm 33. I throw myself around in a field. I can't. I still am a kid technically, I guess.
I think there's a lot of similarities there, isn't there, between kind of what you just said and a student at school. That there's a lot of preparation goes into a moment that's going to happen, and I'm thinking primarily about exams and things like that, where you do a lot of preparation just for a single moment. And could you just tell us does that take a lot of drive? Does it take a lot of determination to be able to prepare for something that could be quite far down the line, or could come at any unexpected moment?
Yeah, for sure. Like it does take a lot, and trust me, it's easier to prepare for something that you love doing than prepare for something you don't. And I wasn't the greatest student. And when I look back at school, like I knew probably a lot that I should have studied more and worked harder in certain subjects. PE, I was just like, it's a breeze. I love PE. I'm going to study. I'm going to do what I'm told, and I'll listen to the teachers. Perhaps in maths and science, where I wasn't that fussed by it, or RE or certain technologies, food technology, I wasn't fussed. So I was just like, it doesn't matter. I'm not going to need those in life anyway. But it's not that I didn't do well in those things, but I just didn't probably put as much effort and as time into them. And therefore I got the results I deserved. I was probably a B student on paper, but I come away with a lot of C's because I didn't do probably or work as hard as I should have. And yeah, that hasn't gone on to affect me. Look, I've gone on to do lots of cool things in life and get degrees and stuff in lots of different things. But I just think, looking back, I just think if I had just been as diligent as I am with my football, as I should have been at school, maybe I could have done a lot more, and I probably would have enjoyed it a lot more. But again, as a kid, you just think, oh well, I've got lots of years ahead of me. There'll be lots more opportunities, and there are. It's not to say that when you get C's and D's, you can't go on to still do amazing things. But I just think preparation is something that does build you for that moment, and it takes away the nervousness, it takes away the anxiety, it takes away all the things that can make you apprehensive about doing something that is going to result in something, because that is at the end of the day, like when I cross that white line, it's all about winning. For me, keeping clean sheets and winning. And it's the same when you go into an exam. It's all about, well, what do I want to achieve in this exam? What is my goal? And if my goal is a B, have I done enough work to get that B before I've even walked into that hall to do the work, to do the exam? And I think, when you go into that exam hall, whether you're going to get that B or not, because if you've done the work 9 times out of 10. And yes, again, the girls that went and got A's and B's, like, they were the ones that worked hardest. They were the ones that sat in the front of the class at school, and kind of we were all like, oh, you always putting your hand up or all like that. But they've gone on to do amazing things and got. So I'm just like, you've got to take those little bit of life lessons of, yes, like you just do the work that your teachers are asking to you, and that will be enough. But if you want to do even more and excel more, you have to put in extra. If you want to be the best at something, that is what I would say. Always do more than what's asked of you if you want to achieve more than everyone else, and that will bring the results that you need.
Yeah, I can't believe you didn't put effort into RE. I'm shocked, Carly.
You were going to kill me when you said RE teacher. I was like, oh, I'm in trouble.
There's a question which relates to that really well from Mr. Seaton, the head of science. And Mr. Seaton taught you, didn't he?
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he asks, so he clearly thinks you did really well when you were at Tanfield, and he says, how were you able to motivate yourself in all of your subjects when you clearly had a passion for one, that being sport?
I think it's sport in general. I think if you're quite a sporty person, like you just have this thing about winning, like you want to win all the time and lots of different things, and you want to be the best at everything. And when you're not, you're kind of like, well, why? And I don't like it. I don't like losing at something. I don't like not being the best. I don't like not being near the top of the class or in the top forms. Like it was kind of like, and my mum as well. My mum would be like, well, why are you not doing well? Are you not doing your homework? I don't want to go into parents even hearing that you're messing around or whatever. Like my mum was such a big driver, us all 3 of us, me, my brother and sister, all being educated so that we could do what we want in life, because I think she has always lived local. She did travel the world for a little period of time, but she ended up having me, which made her stay in Stanley. And I think she was kind of, not that she didn't want that for us, I think she just wanted us all to have the best opportunity in life and for us to be able to. So she made sure we were doing our homework, that parents' evening wasn't difficult for her, and if it was, we'd come home and we'd know about it. But I think she was the driver in most things, of wanting us to do well and making sure that I wasn't getting detentions and that I was doing the work that was required of me. But again, I think playing sport, like I just hated being last. There was no chance I was going to be in bottom set for anything. Like I was like, not a chance. Like that's just not good for me, and I know I'm going to get in trouble when I get home. So just making sure that even if I wasn't the best at something, I was at least second best, or at worst third. Like I was at least on the podium for something. Like fourth and fifth just wasn't acceptable, because that just meant that I was just not putting effort in, and that's just not good enough. I think in life there's something you can always give, and that's hard work. Like you might not be the best skilled, you might not be the most educated, whatever, but you can work hard. And I think in sport, that's something that's like the foundation for everything. Like you can always put the graft in. And I think that for me, like maybe I wasn't the most talented. I wasn't always given an easy lift. I wasn't always selected. I wasn't always picked. And so I had to go away and work hard and find a way to be selected and be picked, and make myself a little bit different. What am I doing that they're not doing, or what are they doing that I can do better than them? And I think that's what it is. There's always something you can find that makes you a little bit different from someone that you can be really good at. And that's what the beauty of life is that we're all different. No one person's the same. So there is going to be something you're really good at that someone isn't. So find it, harness it, take it, speak to your teachers about it, speak to your coaches about it if you're a sports person, and really just go after it and enjoy it. And I think that that's what I did with football. And I guess in school I really just didn't want to be last or near the bottom of anything. So I think that's why I was kind of really good at one thing, which was my sport, but I was kind of actually okay at a lot of other things as well, because I just didn't want to be the worst at anything. And I just made sure that I kind of spread that around my subjects. And kind of come away with the right results I needed to get me on that next step, which was college and university.
Yeah, it sounds like a lot of what you're talking about is like it's taking ownership of it. It's just not just let the world around you happen to you, but you actually grabbing it and taking ownership of where you want to be and what you want to do.
For sure, and that's it. Like you are the driver of your own destiny. Like effectively, like no one's going to come and give it to you. Like your teachers have to look after like 100 pupils a day. Like so they haven't got time to just take everyone side by side and be like, do you want to do this? No, you sometimes have to go to your teacher. You have to be that person to say, look, miss, I'm really struggling at this. How do I do this? What should I do? Like, I really don't understand this. And the teachers will always be there for you. But sometimes as a pupil, you just think, oh, well, they're not helping me. They're not doing enough for me. These people have a lot of stuff to do. You realize when you get out of school and you grow up, like teachers are like absolute diamonds. Like, and I wish like I was back in school and I give my teachers a hell of a lot more respect than what I probably did. But at the same time, that I think that's probably from stuff from doing like this is just like they're also the best people in the world. Like some of the girls I train with now who are still in school and doing their A levels, they love their teachers, and I think that's it. It's not about being a friend, but you use their life experiences, use other experience they've had with pupils. Speak to your teachers. I think that we're so scared sometimes to ask for help as kids, but like that is the best thing you can do. That is what they're there for. Like use them to, what do you want to do in life? How do I succeed? How do I be this person? How do I get better at something? That's what they want to hear. That's what they love to do, is to help you as a person. And I think sometimes you just think the teachers are there to bug the life out of you, make your life harder, tell you what to do all the time. And they're only doing it actually to make you a better person and to get you ready for a life when you leave that school. And that is the biggest thing I think that I've learned of what I should have learned at school a lot more quicker than what I did, is that they're the best people to help you through 5 years of some of the most difficult times in your life. You're going from a child to a little mini adult, and you've got all these things going on in the world. And just use your teachers. Like they love you for it. Like they're only going to help you. Like it's what they're there to do.
Yeah, that's 100%. And next time, if I'm ever writing a CV, I'm going to ask you to write my CV for me, Carly. That was amazing. I'm good. What was that?
Hats off to you guys. Like it's honestly, I like me and the girls discuss it all the time. I just like, and some of the girls, like I say, that I train with that are still at school. I'm like, I wish I was at school. Like it's a mad thing to say, because all you want to do when you're at school is not be at school. and you find every other way, whether you fake being sick, try to get out of lessons, whatever you're trying to do, spend your time trying to get out of it and not and ignoring the teachers. And then you leave school and you grow up a little bit and you think, actually, life was really easy when I was at school. So it's that hard. Like, we just go back a little bit. Can we just hit rewind sometimes? But yeah, just enjoy it. Like, school can be a fun place to be.
Let's do that. This is a really smooth link here. Let's rewind back to when you were at school and kind of see how you got from where you were, growing up in Stanley, going to Tanfield School, and how you've become an international footballer, really. And just to start us off in this bit is a question from Karis, and it's also a question that was asked by Michael, Matthew, and Davey. So there's a lot of people that want to know the answer to this, but I'll play it for you.
Who or what inspired you to become a footballer?
So Karis is asking, who inspired you to become a footballer?
Okay, so my dad. So pretty plain and simple. My dad played football on a Sunday, played cricket on a Saturday, football on a Sunday. My mum would he would take us with us because mum was like, we need to get kids out of the house, they're really annoying. Or we're all going as a family and it's a nice day, it's a bit of summertime, and let us just run around. And of course, when you go to somewhere like that, there's lots of other kids, and the first thing we would do is find as many kids as we could and just play, whether we were just running amok, or we would just, the football would come out and it'd just be like 20v20, massive field, like just run for days on ends. And when I went to my primary school as well, when I moved up from London, I used to live in London for a little bit. I went to Shield Road Primary School, which was just along the road from me. And first thing we did when we got out on the playground was the football would come out and I'd go straight over and just join in. Of course, the lads were like, okay, cool. I didn't really think about it. I actually had a little Cockney accent, and so did one of my best friends, who Craig Solkeld at the time. So we found a little bond that we actually sounded quite similar, and we didn't know why we sounded different to everyone else. But we slowly lost our little Cockney accents and became little Geordies, and we just play all the time. And he would knock on my door, I'd knock on his. We'd have a gang together, and we'd just go around the football field and just play until it was dark. And then that carried on, and I think my dad was the person that drove me to all my football practices. He was the guy that always would not tell me to do better, but just, what do you want to do? Do you want to keep playing on days where I was like, I don't know if I enjoy it anymore. It's really cold. It's really wet. I just want to hang out with my mates after school. And he'd be the one that'd be like, no, come on, it's in the car. You got to go to football practice. And he would pick me up. And yeah, I think my dad is my biggest inspiration. And not because he was massively successful at football. He did all right. He played in the lower leagues or whatever, but he was just the guy that I just wanted to be like. And people say I look quite similar to him or whatever as well, so it might be a little bit of that. But yeah, he was the first guy that I guess I bugged to go into the garden and play football with me, until my brother was old enough and I could kick balls at him. So he was the first person, I think, that was the person that made me want to be a footballer, which is pretty crazy, really.
Yeah, no, that's class. In fact, I just had to double check because we actually got a question in from Craig Solkeld. So
I knew you messaged me. I was going to tell him to kill him.
He's saying, who was your best friend growing up? But I think you've already answered that.
Oh my God, the nightmare. But I'm glad it was just that sort of question. You put a lot worse in there, trust me.
So, did PE at school have a big influence on kind of your love for sport and kind of getting you into that arena?
Yeah, I think for me, all I did was play football. I loved playing football and I loved running. So when it came to football, I was like, all right, cool, I can do this. But then, like, because we used to get separated and all of a sudden there was a girls' changing room and a boys' changing room, and I had to do like sports that I'd class as girly, I wasn't too comfortable, so I ended up having to start playing netball. And Miss Mitchell at the time used to make me wear a skirt. Sorry, I used to have to wear a skirt for the thing, and I hated. And I was like, I don't want to. So a lot of the time I'd not refuse to wear a skirt, but I'd put it on very reluctantly. And the girls who were my friends at the time, Jade High, Kelly, like, can you play on the netball team? Because I'd run around the most. So can you play centre? Can you run around? Can you do this? And I was like, I don't want to play netball. Don't want to wear a skirt. I didn't want to do dance, which the girls all loved to doing. So I was made to do dance. But it just really, I guess, took me out my comfort zone. But also, like, I laughed a lot in those moments. I was embarrassed a lot in those moments. But I also had a lot of fun in those moments. And looking back, I think, again, I think you've got to be a bit uncomfortable sometimes, and there are going to be stuff, especially in school and outside of school, that you're going to be uncomfortable with. And I think it just helps you learn who you are and what you love, and but also overcome moments of stress and anxiety. And I used to get really stressed when I knew it was like I was going to have to do dancing, because I hated it, and I just felt like I was up there embarrassing myself, and everyone was watching me, and I just yeah, it was just really uncomfortable. But at the same time, like I knew Miss Mitchell was doing it for the best of my, it was really going to help me in the long term. I mean, of course, it helped me in the clubs now when I'm out there. I two-step in the club. But, not that I go very often. But yeah, I think that those things they do help you grow. And but I loved PE, and I when we got to like year 9, I was allowed to do 2 hours of PE in an afternoon. I was like, this is the dream, like the 2 hours of just PE in the afternoon. Me and my mates. And I used to get on loads of like, say, I'd sign myself up for everything. So when I got off school, I was like, yeah, I'm up for this. So I'll sign myself up for cross country challenges. I'll sign myself up for athletics. So I get to go off site. I get to go on a bus. I get to go somewhere with my mates and have the afternoon off school, or the morning off school, or the day off school. Yeah. So I just love doing any sport as long as it wasn't dancing. Even netball, I ended up playing the netball games and having some of the best rivalries, where we used to go to like what was Black Fine. We used to have a big rivalry with them, like those sorts of schools where you travel to, and you'd be like nervous on the bus because you were just like, you knew they were going to be a good team, and you knew they were going to be a bit nasty, and it was that big rivalry of like the nerve. But I think that was when I first got my first taste of like having nerves before a game and stuff like that. And I just think that looking back, like that's built me up for crossing a white line in a World Cup, like in a strange sort of way, like those first nerves of like playing a sport where it actually meant something, like to the girls, like it was just all day would be building up to that, like, oh my god, we've got a game tonight, like I hope we're going to win, like we need to beat them, like those sorts of chats that you have, like they're really cool. And yeah, you also make some friendships with people that you don't necessarily think you make friends with, because they're in different form classes, or you don't come across their paths, but then all of a sudden you're in a team together and you've got this one goal of beating this other team, like you suddenly make friendships that you didn't think you'd make. And yeah, they're just all part of I guess skills that you need later in life that you don't know you need until later in life. But they're all gearing you up for that, like for them moments. And yeah, PE was just my escape from books. And like I say, I wasn't the greatest student in the world, and I didn't like having to study, but when I just was able to put my trainers on and my PE kit, I was just like, this is best, this is class. Let me do this the rest of my life.
You talked about that, just about getting nervous for those competitions when you were in school. Do you still get nervous? So when you go onto the pitch for Chelsea, for England, are those nerves still there?
Yeah, but I'd say it's like a different kind of nerves. I think that the nerves are more of excitement nerves rather than like, I'm not sure if I'm going to do well, which was always the kind of thing, because when you're in school as well, if you're the best at something, then you always get put forward. So if I was the best girl at running cross country, then I'd be put forward to run like the national schools or whatever it was. But then all of a sudden you're in an arena where like you don't know what everyone else is like, and maybe you're not the best, and that's just weird. But I think for me, when I'm playing for Chelsea or England, it's like the nerves are more excitement, because I know a lot of the players I'm playing against and I know how well I can perform. But also again, it goes back to that preparation. Like once upon a time I was nervous because I hadn't trained for it, I didn't know what to expect. But now I'm at a level where I have to know I've prepared the most. And I think being in my position, I haven't always been number one choice where I've played, but I've always been kind of slung into mad situations. So the World Cup was a great example. I wasn't number one, but Karen Barty got injured, and all of a sudden I was playing in a semi-final of a World Cup, which I'd never done before. But I knew that I'd always had the right mindset to always think, what if? Like there's always a chance I might play, there's always a chance I might get an opportunity. But if I ever cross that white line and I'm underprepared, then I am going to be feeling nervous, and I am not going to do well, and I'm probably going to make mistakes because I know I haven't done the right things beforehand. So I think for me, it's like always preparing to make sure that I'm ready for a moment, like we were discussing earlier, like it's being ready for that moment, and that moment can come at any time. So I think doing the hard graft and the hard yards, make sure that you can perform at that moment. And I think that it's about coming off the pitch with no regrets, and nerves is a thing I think that I'll always have, just because it always means so much to me. Like winning always means so much to me, and I think that's the nerves that I feel now, is just because I'm so desperate to win all the time. And it's more like a nervous of excitement rather than nerves of worry and anxiety and stress, if that makes sense. So I think I've been able to change as I've grown up and learned those things. It's changing those stresses from I guess negative stresses into positive stresses, because the more positive you are entering a pitch or entering an office or entering exams, the more probably positive result you're going to have. The more negative you feel, I think that does affect on your performance, whether that's an exam performance or a playing performance. And I think that's what I've learned over these tender years of old age, I'm gathering.
Yeah, I go watch Newcastle United play when I can. Obviously, not at all at the moment, but hopefully we get back to St James's Park soon. But I always, when the music comes on, so, when a local hero comes on just before the players come onto the pitch, and kind of the whole crowd gets really excited, I always think to myself, it must be the most amazing feeling in the world to be in that tunnel right now, like to feel the roar in the stadium and then have that music playing. It just nothing must beat it. So to be in the tunnel and to be playing at the top of your game for Chelsea, for England, that feeling it must be incomparable to anything else.
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely stood in the tunnel and can hear like the crowd outside, like chanting and shouting or whatever. And it's like you still can't believe it's true, because you go from being this like little kid at Stanley kicking the ball around with your mates to now being in a tunnel ready to walk out in front of thousands and thousands of people with the TV on and stuff like that. And it's just like sometimes like you do have to pinch yourself, like, because it just doesn't seem real. Like, and it's just, I still like, the cameras have caught me before, but I still usually have the most cheesiest grin walking out that tunnel. I try not to, because I'm like, game face. Don't look like you're enjoying it too much. But it is, sometimes I have to, like, I'm just grinning because I'm just inside. I'm like, what is going on? Like, how has this happened? Like, how are you stood here right now? Like, about to walk out with some of your best, like, I've been so lucky to grow up with some of like my best friends, and I'm stood in a tunnel, like, about to represent my country for however many time it is. And I still get that same feeling, whether it's like, say, a lesser nation we're playing, or a lower ranked nation, or whether it's like, say, in America in a World Cup, like, the feeling's still the same, because it's just an absolute dream and pleasure to be able to walk out and play for your club and for your country, doing what you love.
Yeah.
And one day I would love to walk out to local hero. Like, that was like my dream. I was when they announced like a home European nations out and home Euros, I was just like, please, at one stage must be SGP, please be St James's Park. And then it was like not, and I was like, that would be the dream. But yeah, I don't know how the guys don't. I think you have, whether you have to be local or what, to appreciate that moment walking out to local hero or not. But I don't know how you're not buzzing when you walk out with that amount of people, like, going absolutely crackers for you, and would pay so many amounts of money to be in your position. Yeah, I just love the ground. I always say to the girls when they come over, a lot of our international girls, they're like, oh, what ground should I go and watch a game at? I'm like, St James's Park, without a doubt. You got to go there. Not Arsenal, none of this stuff that looks pretty on TV. Go to that ground and experience an atmosphere that you will never experience in your life. Really? And I'm like, yeah, really.
You mentioned about being from Stanley, and Lathan and Joseph, two students, have asked, as you came from a small place like Stanley, did that make your journey to kind of the big stage of professional football more difficult? Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a really good question, because I do think that it is difficult sometimes to get out of a small village. It's not just Stanley. I think when I speak to a lot of the girls, we're all from small villages. I think even if you class yourself from London, which seems like a big city, you live in a small village within London. So I think this mentality of, if you don't live in a city, it's hard to get out where you're from is quite false. I think that if you want to go somewhere and do something, then you can make it happen. There's always a bus, there's always a train, there's always a car that can get you out of there. And I think for me, like, when I left Tanfield, I lost contact with a lot of my friends because I had to make a really hard decision. So the colleges, Durham sixth form, that I wanted to go to, a lot of my friends were going to, I couldn't play football. It didn't exist. They didn't have a team. I wanted to do A-levels, and I had to make a huge decision because a lot of my friends who I played football with at Sunderland at the time were going to a place called Gateshead College, which was about 40-minute bus ride and a metro ride if I wanted to go. And I would have to fund that myself, but they had a football academy, and I was like, well, that's what I want to do. And also I was going to have to do a BTEC, which again wasn't something I was interested in, but I wanted to play football. So I spent 2 years, I guess, leaving my friends, my best friends from school. While they all went to Durham, I went and studied in Gateshead. So I'd have to get up super early. I'd have to get an hour's journey to and from college. I'd spend there all day playing football in the morning and studying in the afternoon. And I loved it. And that it made me a better player, made me a better person. I come out with a BTEC in sports science, which gave me some equivalences to go to university if I wished. But I just knew that that's what I wanted to do. And yeah, it was, trust me, in winter mornings or when buses would get cancelled, because Stanley is on a hill, as we all know, and the buses don't always run when it snows. I had to miss school. I had to miss college. Sorry, I had to stay over at my friend's house in Sunderland sometimes. But I just knew that's what I wanted to do. And I think that if you want to get out of Stanley, you can. Like there are opportunities. You just have to find them. And that's where I think the teachers come in such and people like yourself, like if you are driven to go and study outside and do something that's different to everyone else, you can. Speak to your careers advisors, speak to your teachers. How do I do this? I want to be this. I want to try and do this. And they will find a way to help you do it. Like that's what they're there for. And I didn't do that, but I was lucky enough to be at a team at Sunderland where the coach at the time was kind of leading the college as he was like the head of the college. So he was just like wanted to get as many of us who he thought were good footballers to his college as possible and made it happen. And I guess that was, you could call it fate or whatever. But yeah, I think you just have to make your own path. Again, like going back to what you said, just own it. Like no one's going to tell you where to go or what to do. Like you have the choice. Like you have 5 years of your secondary school life to figure out what you enjoy and what you love, and then finding out more about it after school or in school by asking your teachers, and then go on from there and you can achieve it. And that's, if I'd not have done that, I think maybe going to Durham, I don't think I'd be sitting here talking to you saying maybe I would have achieved these things, because I wouldn't have continued to play football as much as I did and learn and be coached by great coaches and learn great skills that I have. Yeah, and I think that I probably wouldn't be sat here doing that. So I think that all comes down to me making that hard choice that I could do what everyone else is doing, or I could do what I want to do. And I decided that I want to do what I want to do because that makes me happy as well. So, and I guess it's played out pretty okay.
Yeah. It kind of ties in with a question that Tammy's asked, and it's quite a broad question in terms of, she's just asked what were your key steps to success, and I guess you've kind of touched on some of them, but if you could like kind of pull them out of your experiences, what would you say were those key steps?
The key steps, I think that making difficult choices, I think that's come down to a lot of it. I think that, like speaking just previously, I had to make a choice between, I guess, my friends and my comforts, or making a difficult choice and going into the unknown. But knowing that as well, that I would make new friends and I would make more friends. It's not just new friends as well. I still had my old friends, but I also made a new group of friends as well, which was amazing. And I experienced a total new life because I was also exposed to nightlife in Newcastle and going out and being in a big city. I think so. Yeah, I think making difficult choices, but the right choices. I think that hard work and not giving up when you have rejection. So I was selected to go to a talent camp, I guess you could class it as, when I was under 15. I was 14 years old. So I just thought, all right, brilliant, I'm going to make it. This is me. I'm going to play for England. And I got a letter through the door saying that I wasn't good enough, basically. And I did cry over it. But at the same time, my dad was like, Mum and Dad were like, well, do you want to keep doing it? And I was like, well, yeah, I love what I do. And they were just like, well, you get down and you get your head down and you work harder then. And again, that comes down to hard work and accepting that the first time might not always be the right time, but don't give up. Don't ever give up. It's if you want something, you have the power to work hard for it to get it if you really want it. And I think that I was just not prepared to ever give up, regardless of missing squads. I've been left out of squads for World Cups. I've been left out of squads for European Championships. I've been asked that I wasn't required at Chelsea the first time, and asked to leave the club. But I was also asked to come back. So that just shows, I think, strength and character, and never giving up, and yeah, just not having a fear of rejection, because it's not nice to be rejected, but also not letting that make you who you are. Use it as a power to do more, to be better, because you can always prove someone wrong, whether that's your teacher because they told you weren't good enough, or you maybe not studying hard enough and you're never going to get the grades you need to. Prove them wrong. Like that's sometimes a trigger to do better. Like, and I think those things is just like, don't be scared of rejection. Use it as a harness to be better and do better. Work hard every day and everything. And then and I guess the biggest thing for me was just dream big, because I guess when I was 7 years old starting to play football, there was no such thing as women's football in a big stage, but I guess you can always have a dream and wanting to play on a big stage. And I guess at one time I was going to play with the guys on a big stage, but now I play on the biggest stage with the women's team. So I think that if you have a dream, find a way of making it happen, and you can do that from any age, I think.
Yeah, Holly asked, was there ever a time you thought about giving up? But I suppose you've answered that, really, and that determination to not give up.
Yeah, and it's through rejection. It's through someone saying that you're not good enough. You think, well, maybe I'm not good enough, like, or maybe I can't do it, or it is really hard, like, and it is like you when you get older, you realize like life isn't easy, but you can make it easier if you do the work and you do what's asked of you, you do what's required, and or you do more than what's required if you want to be the best at something, because no one's going to give it to you on a platter. Like, and that's why I love school. That's why I think about school, because it is given to you on a platter. Like, the teachers are giving you everything and you don't realize that, because when you leave school, like, it's not given to you. You have to do everything for yourself. You are effectively left on your own 2 feet with what you've learned from school. And I think that that's probably the biggest thing I can take, is that while you have everything at school and everything's there for you, use it while you can, because it will set you up to put you on the best journey possible for when you leave school. And if you don't, it's not to say that your opportunities will be limited, but it might be a little bit harder because you won't understand how to get those things because you didn't do it when you were younger. So yeah, I just think that it's there are easy ways of and times where you think, I can't do this anymore, I don't want to do it anymore, and that's okay as well, because I went to university for a year and I didn't like it and I said I didn't want to do it, and that's not because it was hard. I passed the year, but I didn't enjoy it. And it's okay sometimes saying, if you don't enjoy something, that you don't want to do it. That wasn't the path I didn't want to go down. And I had 5 years out, and then I decided I want to go back to university, so I did it at 29. And I studied and I loved it, and I now have a marketing and media degree. So yeah, I think that as well, like, don't think that just because you don't enjoy something you can't say no to things as well. Like, life's about learning. Enjoy learning who you are and what you love to do. But yeah, I think that the main thing is just to don't give up just because someone might say no the first time or the second time or the third.
Yeah, it's the last episode we did of this, where we were talking to David Fisher, the editor. One of the big messages that came out from his story as well was exactly what you've just been saying. He got fired from his first ever editing job, and it kind of broke his heart. But now he's like one of the best editors in the country, editing TV and film. And you're saying that kind of those tastes of rejection actually then fueled the success, and I think it's so important, isn't it, just to not just get to the first rejection and go, right, well, obviously I'm not good enough, so I'll go and try something else, but actually to get over it, and actually is the pathway to success filled with failure?
100%. I reckon if you brought 25 line essays on and did it, they will tell you that they failed at something at some point. If not once, if not twice, if not 3 times, there'll be multiple failures. But the reason probably why they got to where they were or where they are now is because they never give up, and they just believed so much that they wanted to do what this one thing was, that they found a way to do it. And that's the thing. It's like finding a way. There's not always one way to do something, and you can't be like someone else. So me trying to be like Karen Bardsley isn't going to get me the #1 spot. Me being Carly Telford, but what I bring and being brilliant at what I do might be the thing that gets me above her in that moment. So it's also like using what you're really good at, because there's no point trying to be like someone else, because you're just going to be like, that's someone else, but probably worse because you're you and they're them and they're really good at what they do because it's who they are. So I think it's just like, it's using what other people have, but what do you have that makes you stand out from the crowd? What are you really good at? What's your quirk? Are you funny? Are you witty? Are you smart? Are you a collection of those things? Can you put something together? Like, it's just about being you, finding what you're good at and just making it brilliant. Like, be brilliant at it. Like, just be brilliant at who you are. And that's the thing. It's not trying to be, we spend so much time looking, I think, at other people and trying to be like those because they're funnier than me, or they're smarter than me, or they're cleverer than me, or I don't know, like they've got these things. But actually, what are you good at? Like, what's the thing that makes you tick? What's the thing that makes you get up in the morning? What's the thing that drives you every day? And be really good at it. And the thing for me, I guess, was catching and kicking a ball. So I thought, you know what it is? I'm going to take this and I'm going to run with it. Every time I'm going to try and be really good at it. But yeah, I think that's the thing. It's just finding something that you love and finding a way to do it for the rest of your life.
Yeah. It must be really difficult in terms of, being a goalkeeper. There's always other goalkeepers in the squad, isn't there? And
Yeah.
is there a constant kind of competition of who's going to be the number one goalkeeper? And I suppose in that sense as well, you're probably having to deal with a lot of ups and downs of not getting picked for a certain game, but then the ups of getting picked for another game. And how is that kind of emotionally to deal with that kind of that up and down on a regular basis?
It's difficult, and the thing is that things can change really quickly. You can have someone that really likes you as a coach, and because it comes down to, I guess, management as well, people that are looking after you or select you for things, they can really like who you are and what you do. But then a new coach can come in and be like, well, actually, we don't really appreciate what you do, so we want to go this way, and this person's actually really good at it. So then all of a sudden you're like, oh well, what do I do now? Like, where does that leave me? And I think sometimes I've just kind of sat and accepted that. And that's probably maybe on reflection of my career. Could I have asked more questions and done more to kind of be like, well, why and how and what do I need to do? And I guess we call it a goalkeeper union is a strange place to be, because generally there are 1, 2 or 3 of you that are vying for one position. And it's not like you can just sub a keeper in for like 10 minutes at the end so you get a little bit of game time like the outfielders can. But it's about our groups, about it's for us at England and at Chelsea, we want to be the best goalkeeping group in the world, because if we have that, then at any one time one of us is called upon, they're going to be successful and feel supported. Because in those moments as well, you need everyone to be pointing in the same direction. We can't have anyone ruining the sessions because they don't like another goalkeeper, because effectively we're serving for each other, we're in goal for each other. Like, do you know what I mean? And if someone wants to be mean or nasty or whatever because they don't like someone, then that's going to ruin the session for everyone. So we have to find a way of making sure that we can work together, but also push each other in a direction where it's going to make each other better. Now, it seems so mad because we're all fighting for the same spot, but we're in a team sport as well. So if one person isn't doing the job, then the whole squad's going to be let down, because what's the point? Like, we have to be wanting to achieve the same goals. And that doesn't mean that when I leave that camp, I can't work harder. I can't go and study more. I can't be a better goalkeeper. So when I return, I look better, I feel better, I'm stronger, I'm fitter, I'm faster, I'm catching more balls, I'm making more saves. And that's what I do away from there. And that's what I can do every day to make me better. But when I turn up on that camp, I have to be the best teammate I can possible, or that's the only way we're going to win. That's the only way that we are going to win, is that if everybody is 100% for the team. And that means whether I'm starting, I feel supported, I feel valued. But if I'm not playing, I make sure that the keeper who is playing feels supported and feels valued, so that they can perform to the best. Because if they're playing well, I'm getting a medal, I'm getting paid. And if I'm playing, they're going to feel the same way. So I think that's the thing about being a goalkeeper, is that you might not always be starting or playing. And yes, don't get me wrong, I've come home and be like, this isn't very good. I'm not going to use the terminology I would use, and it's horrible, and I want to be playing and I want to be pushing. But also I look around my room and I have multiple medals, multiple bottles of champagne, shirts where I've played and I've supported in those roles, and I still come away with the thing that they've come away with, which is the same medal, the same shirt, and the same bottle of champagne. So it's just like those moments. It's really, I think, hard to make people understand that. Of course, I want to be playing, but also it's not always up to me.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. What could be uh, viewed as a really competitive environment, that it's turned into, well, we want to be the best group. It reminds me a bit of Formula One and how the teams work there, and how sometimes certain drivers are asked to pull back to allow another person from their team to get in front, and
Yeah.
and how difficult that must be, especially for your own development, or your own, even your own ego from time to time. But actually, it's not it's not about you. It's about the team. And I think that kind of attitude is so transferable to other walks of life as well, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. And I think it ultimately comes down to, for me, like, again, this comes back to my mum and installing, I think, really good values within us as kids, is that it's just being a good person. Like, wanting someone else to do well doesn't make you a bad person, and it doesn't make you less of a person either. And that's okay. Like, I want my teammates to do well because that means I do well as well. But also, that doesn't mean that it makes me less, because I'm still going to go away and work hard. And then next time I might get picked to play, or next time I'm going to be at front and center. And again, it comes back to just owning your area, and like not wanting others to do worse so you can do better, because that doesn't work either. Like it doesn't. Like, they might do worse in that moment, but that doesn't mean they're going to get, that you're automatically going to get pushed forward. And also, if they have done worse, are you ready for that moment as well? Like, have you prepared yourself best, or are you just wishing like not well on others, which doesn't sit well with me. And I think that ultimately I've always wanted to be the best teammate I can and the best person I can in this environment. And when I eventually retire, I'd like to think that I've ticked those boxes, but I've collected a hell of a lot of medals and trophies along the way, which is the Billy bonus, really, isn't it?
There's a great question that I'm going to play on the screen for you, which relates to this, from Miss Sefton. So I'll play that for you now.
Hi Carly, I'm a massive fan of the WSL, so it's brilliant to have you with us. I was just wondering if you think there's anything about the ethos or the values of Chelsea as a club that makes them so successful, on top of the quality of players and management and things like that.
Oh,
Did you get
very
that?
good. Love that. Love that. Let's have a sip of water before start unpicking our values at Chelsea. No, I think look, we're ran by a fantastic manager. So I went to Chelsea, I think it was about 8 years ago, when Emma first came to the club. And look, we were only allowed to park in the car park. We were only allowed to train on the 3G at 8 o'clock at night, 2 hours, twice a week. We only had one set of kit. And I remember when Emma came in, and she'd been in America for like 4 or 5 years in like the biggest league at the time that were paying thousands and thousands of dollars. And she came in, and she was just, and I was captain at the time at Chelsea. And she was like, right, Carls, she was like, what is going on at this club? Like, we need to make it better. It's just not, this is not professional. This is not this. And I was just like, well, good luck trying to make it anything different, because no one seems to be bothered. And she was like, I'm not having it. She was like, I'm telling you now, in 4 years' time, we will be in the Champions League and we'll have trophies. And I was kind of like, okay, cool. Didn't really think much of it. And then I got released 6 months later, not because I told her that, but because she just had this thing that she was going to make changes, and there would be changes that would shock the club, changes that would, she went knocking on doors. So she went up to the highest people, the directors, knocked on the doors in the offices and kind of said, what's going on? We need this. Do you want your women's team to be successful? Do you want Chelsea to be successful? Because ultimately that's what it is. Do you want Chelsea men to be here and Chelsea women to be here? Because eventually that's what's going to happen. And it's still Chelsea. It's still the same name, but it's getting dragged through the mud down here while your men are up here, sort of thing. So she's been the driver from day one of our values, and it started with her. And I think that as a manager and as a person, she only breeds success. And then you just look in the 4 years that she did have the team, they won their first WSL, they made Champions League. She's been able to bring in some of the biggest and the best names in women's football. And her values just come down to a lot what I've discussed, I guess, that they echo through me. And when you work with, I guess, top level managers and coaches, a lot of them are probably the same. I think if you sat in with Jurgen Klopp and people like that, he would probably have similar values, which is work hard. And that's, again, a foundation for everything we do. Even though we are the best in the league, we are unbeaten in 32 games in the league, we still cross that white line knowing whoever we're playing, whether it's bottom of the league, top of the league, well, not top league if wear it, but in and around us, we're going to have to work hard. You have to earn the right to play. You have to earn the right to be on that pitch first with that team. And then you can play football. Then you show your style. Then comes the stuff, I guess, the flair and the stuff that looks good, and the tactics and the whatnot, and the individuals that are amazing. But working hard is something that we've always had. But I think because of her background, it's about staying humble. We appreciate where we've come from. We appreciate that we're in a transition period of, I have spent a lot of my career as a non-professional, and I've done the hard yards as such, the long drives, the unpaid, the paying to play, and now I'm in a position where I get paid to play. Like, don't forget that. Don't forget the fans that have been with you on the journey as well, and appreciating that, and the people that invest in our game. And I guess that comes down to being humble and knowing where you're from, and not shouting from the roofs about the car you drive, the house you own, the branded clothes you might wear. It's about playing football and doing what we love, and showing that on the pitch. So again, that's another value we have. And then I guess a winning mentality. So you come to a club like Chelsea to win. Like, you don't come here for any other reason. Yes, I want to get better as a player and as a person, but I'm here because my trophy cabinet's not that full, so I want to fill it. And how do you do that? How do you gain? You're already a good player, but how do you get better? So you have to ask questions. You have to work hard. You have to work harder than the other person, because they're working hard. You're the best club in the world. Like, everyone's working hard. So what do you got to do to be even better than that? You've got to go in and do your gym. You've got to go upstairs and do your video analysis. You've got to stay out extra hours on the pitch. And these are all things that I think that Emma has been able to install. And they're like 3 key values that we always want to have. And I think ultimately with that, with the staff and the players, it's about togetherness. So how do we get that feeling that everybody is working for the greater purpose of the team? And I think at the minute we have a great togetherness. You see that on the pitch, no matter who we play in what game, whether that's a youngster, a new player, an old head, a new recruit in terms of some of the academy players we brought on the other night against Aston Villa, 2 17-year-old kids that have been training with us. Like, they just know what's expected of them, how they slot in, but they also know that just because you're a Sam Kerr, who's a world-class athlete, who is world renowned all over the world, you are Georgia Fox at 17 years old, who's just left school that day. She went to school in the morning or studied on the bus. Now you're playing with her. You're on the same team as her, on the same pitch as her, but you're just as valued. That is so important, because that just means that everyone can be themselves, which is ultimately important, because you're a team, but we want everyone to feel comfortable in their own skin. And I think those 4 values have been so key to, I guess, Chelsea's successes over the past 4 to 5 years of multiple trophies. But also that comes down to the manager who drives it every single day.
Yeah, that kind of sense of discipline as well, even at the highest level. And like, you've been left school for a while now, and you still living by a lot of discipline. And I think a lot of people think, well, I'll get through school. It's a very disciplinary area, school, and then I can do whatever I want. But actually, success comes from keeping that discipline in place. And there was something in the media recently about, I think somebody had leaked Frank Lampard's sheet of different fines that players could get if they were like turning up late, or you probably can't comment on this. Sorry for bringing it up, but it just, I think people were shocked by that level of discipline, and then the consequences if you weren't on top of your game as well.
Yeah, and it's funny because, like, look, Instagram and social media is great. Look, it looks like us footballers live an amazing lifestyle. Trust me, our lives are boring, very boring, because that's the job we have to do. Our job is about playing football and performing at the highest level. So yes, I go to train at 9 o'clock. I get home at 2 o'clock. I'll have my lunch. I'll walk my dog. I'll sit in the house. Lots of us are sitting in the house at the minute, but even when back in the day, I take the dog for a walk. I might go and grab a coffee. I'll come home. I'll cook my tea. I go to bed. I do it again, because I can't go out shopping. I don't want to be on my feet too long, because if the next day I'm tired, I'm in trouble. Like, I can't look tired on the pitch. I can't go out clubbing as much as I want to, and all my friends do, and go on holiday when I have to go on holiday in the 2 or 3 weeks I get off. That's if I get 2 or 3 weeks off in the summer. And yes, it looks great for that week. People are away on boat parties or whatever, but that is 1 week of your life. Like, I don't get like no offense to teachers, 15 weeks off a year where I can get to go on holiday like at all these different times and experience. Like it looks great on paper, but sometimes it is like a difficult life to have because it's actually very mundane and very boring. And I've missed out on my best friend's weddings, my best friend's hen parties because I can't go. And it's down to discipline. Like, do I want to be successful? And I have to apply. And if anyone turns up to our wedding, I'll be very surprised. It'll just be all footballers because that's the only weddings we can never go to is each other's. But at the same time, like discipline is the thing that gets you where you want to be. And that is the top of our game. And I guess, yeah. And that's life in general. You leave school, like say you feel very, I guess, dictated to at school, but you leave and you have to get a job and you have to be in at 8 o'clock and you have to work till 5 o'clock and then you might have to take calls after work. So actually being at school is less because you go to school at 8 o'clock, 8:30, and you finish by 3 and you get to do what you want on a night time. All right, you might have a little bit of housework, but then you get homework, but then you get to do what you want. When it comes to work, like if you live in London, you might be commuting for an hour, you're in work for 7-8 hours, and then you commute home for an hour. And guess what? 7-8 o'clock, and you're tired, and you go to bed, and then you do it all again. So it's like that; those skills have to be transferred into life. It's not just like a free for all when you leave. Yes, maybe gap years, etc., and you go to university and you enjoy a bit of that. But when it comes down to like real life, it's sometimes a little bit harder than school. So that's why you should enjoy it while you can.
We haven't got much time left, but I've got a few questions. If we could do this maybe a bit like quick fire, just if that's all right. So the first one is it's another video from Dylan asking about. I suppose you've just talked about the difficulties of being a professional footballer, but he asks about what are the perks. So I'll hand over to Dylan.
Hi, Collie. I just wanted to know what is the perks of becoming a footballer?
Okay, Dylan. So the good things are I have travelled to about, I'd say, 25 countries over the course of my career. So most of Europe, all over the world. Amazing, absolute dream. Travel. When you leave school, please, if anyone, travel the world as much, when obviously COVID allows you to, but please travel the world. There are some amazing places out there. 2, I have actually drove some really nice cars. Some of the benefits of playing in big competitions mean that sometimes companies want to give you really nice cars. So that's been a really nice perk. And yeah, I get to do what I love every single day as a job and get paid for it. So I guess that's another pretty cool perk. But yeah, I guess they're my top 3.
Amazing. Emily is asked, who scored the trickiest goal that you ever had to try and save in your career?
Oh, that's a very good, tricky one. Ooh, might have to come back at that one at the end. I'll come back at that one at the end.
Yeah, no worries. Is it, Jaden has asked, is it hard to juggle? And I guess you've kind of already touched on this, your football life and your social life.
Yeah, I guess it's just become routine for me now. But I think when I was younger, so when I was probably in my early 20s, I liked life a lot more than football. And I guess that's part of being young and naive. Like you just think you can do both. So I lived in London, so I was definitely enjoying London life probably a lot more than I should have. And that paid the price ultimately, because that was also the period I got released from Chelsea. So a good lesson is find a good balance and make sure you do the thing that you love doing is the priority and not the thing that you enjoy potentially in going out at the time and having a good time. But yeah, I think that I've learned obviously is make sure that the thing that I want to do in life is the priority, not the thing that I guess enjoy for that moment. So yeah, it can be difficult, but it's, yeah, I guess that was my life lesson in that moment.
Brilliant. And Darcy and Nicole have asked, is it hard to be a goalkeeper, and what advice would you give to somebody who wants to be a professional goalkeeper?
I'd say from the months of October to March, it's awful because it's just wet, muddy and cold. I didn't sign up for that now. It's trust me, the girls are always like, why do you, like, I'll come in from training, I'm covered in mud, and they're like, how do you do it? Like, it's freezing out there, it's so cold. But I just love it. Like, It's nothing I'd rather be doing. Like them lot stood around, like kicking balls around, but why not just throw myself around? Like it is hard work and there's long hours. Sometimes like we're always the first out on pitch, so the girls will go out at 11:30. We're always out at 11:15, 15 minutes early, and usually we're out a little bit later as well, just to get our work done before we join in with the team. So yeah, it is hard work, but it's also the funnest part of the job. I think we get to get all the equipment out. We have the air buddies out, which are the big blow up mannequins. We have tennis balls out, tennis rackets, and working on hand-eye coordination. We use laser lights to work on our like eyes. So you get to do all the fun stuff. Whereas the girls who play outfield, they just have to kick balls around, and it's pretty boring, really. So I'd say being a goalkeeper is a lot of fun. It is a lot of hard work and muddy work, but for me, it's still the best position on the pitch because it's the funnest job.
Amazing. We've got one last one before we go back to the trickiest goal one. Ashton has asked, in your whole career, what has been the greatest struggle?
Greatest struggle.
It's quite a broad question, but yeah.
Yeah, I think probably sacrifice. So I moved away from home when I was 18, and I've spent most of since being 18 living away from home, living away from friends, living away from family, having to do a lot of my stuff at a distance, like say missing weddings, missing hen parties, missing some of my friends having children and what that was like, that experience, missing family birthdays, family occasions. I think that's probably the hardest thing when I look back. Like there's a lot of things that I've missed out on because of football and making that choice. But at the same time, I know that I've been supported in everything that I've done. Some of my friends have always said, like, don't worry, like, we understand. We'll still be there at your wedding. But yeah, they'll always be there. And like when I played in the World Cup, Craig, Lindsay, Craig's wife, and just they were all there for me. Like that's been the beauty about it. It's like I've just always been supported, even though I've had to make those sacrifices. Like it's sometimes sad at the time, and I do miss being home, and I've missed my family, but I know they're always there, and lucky enough we all have these in our possession, so they're never really that far away. And yeah, I think that knowing that they're all supporting me has made that sacrifice a little bit easier, but making them hard decisions to miss those things has probably been the worst part about it. But when I look back on it, hopefully they weren't that bad decision when I look at my little trophy cabinet.
And yeah, the last question, the trickiest goal that anyone's ever scored against you?
I think one of the most skillful and one of the most amazing players that I've ever played alongside will be a footballer called Kelly Smith, who's obviously now retired. But I was lucky enough to play with her in England for 4 or 5 years, and her skills is unbelievable. She was a left-footed player that could use her right foot. She was usually up to something tricky, and yeah, she would multiple times catch me off my line and lob me, or just take it round me and to have me sat down before I could even know which way she was going. So I'd say that there's probably not a particular one, because like say I was lucky enough to train with her on England camps for multiple days, and you'd be up against her all the time, and she'd try different stuff. But she's probably the most trickiest player and probably the most skillful player in terms of not knowing what she was going to do and how she was going to do it, and most difficult person I've faced in my career.
Quality. Thank you so much for joining us, and I think it's so important that the fact that you're from Stanley, you went to Tanfield School, you at the risk of being cheesy, you're one of us, and then you're representing your country on that national level is amazing and so inspirational for us. So thank you for joining us.
No, thank you for having me. And like I will never shy away from being from Stanley. It'll always be my hometown for as long as I live. It's a beautiful part of the world for what it is. I think as well you appreciate when you move away the countryside and how we're so close to the beach, so close to the hills and the mountains. And yeah, it's a small mining town, but it is what it is, and I love it, and it will always be my home.
Cool. We better let you go. You got a game this evening, haven't you?
Yeah, we got a semi-final Conti Cup. We got West Ham tonight, so we get that. We're in another final, so apologies for not being able to do it as we wanted to, but I'm just glad we got it done, because I didn't want to miss out on it.
Oh, thank you so much, and good luck for the game tonight.
No, thank you very much. And lastly, thank you for all the teachers and for the school for, I guess, putting me on this journey that I'm on, because I guess I never really got a chance to say thank you. I do keep in touch with my old form tutor a little bit, but yeah, trust me, guys, enjoy school for what it is, because it is probably not the best 5 years of my life, but it was a really, really special time in life, and I made some really special memories. So enjoy school while you can, and hopefully all safe and sound, and maybe one day I'll get back into school and see you all. So thank you for having me.
Yeah, would love to have you. Thanks, Carly.
Cheers.